How's it going? And welcome back to another episode of Mood for Feud. I'm your host Katia, and this is the first time that I've recorded since my big unexpected hiatus that I went on. I'm so sorry for deserting you guys for like 2 months there, but also thank you so much for still listening now and for giving me that time and flexibility to, take a step back, recover, recoup, do all of that. And now I'm back getting into it. This week we are covering the next couple in my Ex-fluencer series, which is all about influencers who are now exes who had somewhat messy or at least public breakups. If you haven't listened to the first Ex-fluencers episode that I did on Jake Paul and Alyssa Violet, make sure you check that out. But this week we're going to be talking about Atis Paul, no relation to Jake Paul by the way, just happens to have the same last name, Atis Paul and Mikaela Testa. If you don't know who these people are, you might have heard of Anna Paul. She's a very famous Australian influencer and OnlyFans creator, and Atis Paul is her brother, and then Mikaela Testa is another very famous Australian influencer. I would estimate that she would be a bit less famous than Anna. And if you haven't heard about any of these people, that's also fine. I hope you still enjoy the episode and make sure you let me know all your thoughts. I also have a feeling that this episode is going to be a little bit shorter, so I thought I'd take the chance to give like a personal life update as well, and I will be doing it at the end, so if you're not at all interested in that, that's totally fine. You can just stop listening halfway through, and I'm going to get my feelings hurt because the analytics do show like at what point the listener thing dropped off, but it's fine. So I actually first came across Atis Paul on TikTok, and kind of still to this day, the most interesting thing I find about him is that he's Anna Paul's brother. Like, she definitely has all the most fame, I would say, in that family, and he's like the typical sibling of someone famous who then uses it as an opportunity to like date really hot other famous people and try and make their own content. But like ultimately when you boil it back down, like I don't want this to be too shady, but Atis Paul is only interesting to people because he's Anna's brother, in my opinion anyway. So yeah, I first came across Anna Paul's TikTok, I want to say in about 2020. The first TikTok of hers that I ever saw was her and Glenn making a birria taco, and the reason I even like paid attention to the video was because I'd been craving birria tacos and I'd been really wanting to make some, but often with like American creators, when you're trying to follow recipes, like they're using a lot of ingredients that we either can't source here in New Zealand or might be called different things here. And so because obviously her and Glenn live in Australia, I was like so interested in their birria taco video because they were buying brands that I recognized or that I knew I could find in our supermarkets as well. So that's really why I first saved her TikTok. And then obviously with TikTok, when you like or interact with one video, you get a bunch more. And yeah, I've been following her ever since then. And I will say Anna Paul and the wider family as well by extension are such an enigma to me, particularly the way that they avoid scandal and drama. Like, it is crazy because they have been very adjacent to it, or like not even adjacent, like there has been drama to do with them, but they've never like fully been cancelled to the point where they have to take a break from the internet or issue an apology or anything like that. I don't know how they do it, but I hope other management teams are taking notes because they've obviously mastered the way to handle controversies and things. For context, like Anna Paul, I think she's in the top 1% of all Australian OnlyFans creators, and so she's making bank, like she's making so much money. And TikTok has this love-hate relationship with rich people, right? Because they're fascinating to watch, but at the same time, TikTok can be very pro-working class a lot of the time, I find. Sorry, not TikTok, the app. The app is capitalism at its finest. The TikTok viewers can be a bit like that. And so what you'll usually find is like someone with a lot of money will eventually get dragged, like they'll go too far with showing their wealth, and then people will be like, nah, I can't stand you anymore. You know, the jealousy seeps in. It becomes really apparent that they're out of touch and things like that. Anna hasn't really had that as far as I know. And like I have the same feeling watching her TikToks. I enjoy watching all her traveling and stuff. And she's almost one of the only rich people that's not completely insufferable. And maybe the reason for that is that she does have this real rags to riches storyline. She's quite open about the fact that her and her family didn't grow up with a ton of money. You know, she used to work in a supermarket when she was a teenager. Yeah, in that sense, it's like we as a society deem these people to deserve their wealth. But yeah, anyway, I just find that really interesting that she's been in the spotlight for over 4 years now and hasn't had a single massive proper cancellation. Like, there's been moments of heat, for example, which we'll get into this later, but Atis did have allegations of dating a minor, and then there was also the Veruca Salt controversy. Veruca Salt is another Australian creator who claimed that Anna's dad is actually homeless, which would obviously be pretty problematic considering the amount of wealth that she brings in, and she does still have a relationship with her dad. Maybe we can cover that in a different episode. But yeah, I don't know. I'm baffled by the way that this family manages to skirt around controversies. So let's get into Atis Paul. Atis was born January 2nd, 2001, making him a Capricorn. And honestly, I just want to say the Capricorn representation on this podcast, like first we had Jake Paul and now we have Atis Paul, and I'm just gonna have to do like a little check first of all to make sure that if there are ever Capricorns on this podcast again, like can they at least be someone cool? Like I'm sick of being lumped in with these, I don't even know what to call them, clout chasers. Yeah, let's go with that. So anyway, Atis is a Capricorn. I don't know too much about his upbringing, but I'm just going to assume it's similar to Anna's. So if we're going off what I know about her upbringing, he was born in Germany. Their dad is German and their mum is Turkish. And Atis, Anna, like the whole family can speak German. So that's pretty cool. Oh my god, I've got so much in common with Atis. When they were young, they moved to Australia and they grew up, like I said, like in a kind of lower socioeconomic class. There's some rumors online that they weren't as broke as Anna often in her stories makes them out to be. She's got a lot of stories, like as I mentioned, she used to work at the supermarket, which is also quite normal though to do as a teenager. Like I know a lot of people who I went to school with who came from like wealthy families, but they would still work in supermarkets as kids just because, I don't know, their parents are trying to teach them the value of money. But she does also have some other stories. Like I swear I remember her telling the story that when her and Atis were growing up, like when they were little kids and they couldn't afford lunch, they would go to the supermarket and buy one brown onion and then some, like, this is the bit that I forget, was it deli meats or something like that? The total would come to like $2 or something, and then they'd just sit outside and take like one bite of meat, one bite of raw onion, and it would be like their lunch, which, you know, stories like that do make it sound like they came from a less wealthy background than just like your average working class family. So when Anna's 19, she actually starts working on OnlyFans. I think we've talked about OnlyFans on this podcast before, but if you don't know what it is, it's a subscription-based platform. It's particularly popular in the adult entertainment industry, and you can basically subscribe to your favorite creators, pay like a monthly subscription fee, and get access to like exclusive content that isn't shown on their main free social feeds. And OnlyFans is one of those apps that has a potential to be very lucrative. Like some people can find full-time work out of this. Top 1% OnlyFans creators will be making the equivalent of like 10 plus full-time jobs. And especially, like, I find it interesting that she started when she was around 19, because the app was created in 2016 and I think she would have been 19 in around 2018, which means she really came into the app in its first, you know, year and a half to 2 years of being developed, which I feel like that is crucial in terms of that it wouldn't have been as saturated as it is now, when lots of people are seeing how successful you can be off the app and deciding to, join in themselves. So in that sense, I do think she was quite ahead of the curve. So yeah, honestly, good for her. She jumps onto the app at a good time. She also starts vlogging around this time, first on YouTube and then more predominantly on TikTok, where she eventually starts to blow up. And TikTok and OnlyFans do go hand in hand in that way, in the sense that you can grow a big following more easily on TikTok, and then you can transfer that following to a more lucrative app like YouTube or OnlyFans, where you're going to be getting paid more. And she is extremely successful. She's got large followings across the apps that will be directing a lot of traffic to her OnlyFans. So as I mentioned, she is now in the top 1% of Australian OnlyFans creators, which basically means she is making bank, and good on her. And as always, with OnlyFans, there's a lot of haters in that sense. Ironically, they're most of the time men who are kind of like, get a real job, or, criticize women who make money from like adult entertainment. But who are most of her subscribers going to be? Men. Yeah, so shut up. Basically, as Anna becomes more successful, more famous, Atis also starts making some content on TikTok as well. And Anna does make enough to support her whole family. As I mentioned, they didn't grow up super wealthy, and now it's kind of wholesome to see her be able to treat her parents to, expensive trips overseas and fly them all first class. And yeah, it really does seem like a rags to riches storyline. And so Atis obviously also starts getting a lot of money, I guess, amassing a following on TikTok, and he starts making a lot of like posts, usually about where they're going on holiday or about the like cars he owns, things like that. But I will say one thing about Atis that always surprises me is just how many different internet personas he's had on TikTok. So when he first started posting with Mikaela, for example, when they were dating, it was just a lot of like normal girlfriend boyfriend type of content, like about their traveling, about their day-to-day lives. And then he entered this really weird like crypto asshole persona. I guess he was fishing for people to leave some kind of comments on his post, but he'd be like, I woke up and ate a $40,000 piece of toast with my hot as fuck model girlfriend. Like just this kind of, like very flaunty, very boastful expressions of his wealth. Like he'd be showing his Mercedes, like, I'm not going to clean this car because it's not a Lamborghini. Like I would only clean a Lamborghini, blah, I don't even know. Anyway, I'll post some examples on my Instagram, okay? Because I feel like you just have to see it to know what I'm talking about. At the same time, he was also like branding himself as some kind of crypto genius, which is kind of crack up because at the time he would have been 21 years old. What does a 21-year-old know about financial decisions? Like, I don't know. Anyway, but he would be like, guys, I have been following crypto for like over 10 years now. I know how to make money off of it. And that was like his whole thing, was that he would like take some of his sisters and girlfriends' OnlyFans earnings and like invest them into crypto for them so that they could make money off of their money. Which I will say, I'm not against the idea of, especially when you're making a lot of income, like investing a good chunk of that to then make money off your money. That all makes sense. I just don't really know if I trust that a like 21-year-old has been following crypto for 10 years. How is 11-year-old Atis eating a raw onion and deli meat, then also going home and like studying finances? I just don't see how those two align. During this time, he actually also makes an OnlyFans account, but not for adult entertainment content. You can sign up to his OnlyFans and he'll give you like advice on what crypto to invest in. And yeah, he really went all in with this crypto persona, which is so funny because now he never talks about crypto. It's like it's not even part of his language. There'd be nothing to indicate now that this used to be his whole brand. Let me know if you remember Atis's crypto era. I'd love to know what you thought about all that, because I remember thinking like, who is this guy? But now I would say he is a little bit more like soft boy, femboy energy. You know, he wears nail polish, jewelry. He's got like that classic soft boy mullet thing going on. He listens to Olivia Rodrigo. Like he's so like wholesome cottagecore vibes now. I have to force myself. Okay, I'm going to write like a little memo down. Promise myself that I'm going to upload some examples of all of this onto my Instagram, because I just need the people to know what I'm talking about. When people are like this, like when people have so many different personalities that they bring to the internet, I do always get a bit wary of them. And I'm not saying that you have to be 100% genuine on the internet all the time, but when you just have so many personas, then it's like, well, now I just have no idea who you are. Maybe that's fine, but to me personally, I always just get a bit like, ooh, about people when they're like this. So there's a bit about Atis. Let's move on to Mikaela Testa. She was born 16th of March 2000, and she is a Pisces. And this tracks to me. Like when I watch her videos, she does give me Pisces energy. This makes sense. I haven't been able to find too much about her upbringing, but she has stated that her parents disowned her after she started doing OnlyFans, which is super sad. I also know she's had various falling outs with her siblings, and I have to say, I do feel sorry for her. I feel like she's spent a lot of time being lonely, just in the way that she cycles through best friends really quickly, you know, like she doesn't really have a single person, at least not from what she shows, that's been a constant in her life. And it seems like people come into her life and then leave very quickly. Now, this could also be a bit of an indicator of the type of person that she might be, but it is still sad when people have that, or at least I find that sad, because I'm such a friend collector in the sense that I have a lot of friends that I will keep for decades. You know, obviously not everyone, but in general, the ones that I become super close to, I will usually be super close to for like years and years and years and years. And I can't imagine that it's easy not even having like one person who has been a constant for you. And so yeah, I just think that that's really sad. Mikaela has been very open about struggling with bipolar disorder, anxiety and depression, which, to be honest, those factors could be part of why she hasn't had a lot of long-term friendships, which is super sad, but is actually just the reality that a lot of people do shy away from maintaining friendships with people who have mental health issues, which is obviously shit, to say the least. And I will say the thing with Mikaela is she does often contradict herself online, so like we'll see that in the feud as well, but sometimes you do have to take everything she says about herself with like such a massive grain of salt, and so it does become a bit tricky. Like the lines get pretty blurred there and you don't really know what's truth and what isn't. And to be fair, like I am kind of one of those people who thinks that there isn't such a thing as the truth because everyone perceives everything differently. But all that to say, I don't have much info on her. But yeah, that's a little bit about who Mikaela and Atis are. Let's get into the feud. So Mikaela and Atis started dating around 2019-2020. There are rumors that they actually both cheated on their partners at the time to be with one another. I'm not sure how true that was. This was based off an Instagram question, like ask me anything question, where someone said, is it true that you cheated on your partners to be with one another? And Mikaela just responded yes, which like just saying yes is like that's either the truth or it's like she's just baiting people. Yeah, like I mentioned, around that time Atis was in his crypto era. Mikaela was pretty big on OnlyFans, and so he did become her OnlyFans manager, and he would manage a lot of her funds through his crypto investments. So that was kind of like they had like a little business relationship and then also a romantic relationship, which I feel like this just never works out well. It's actually very similar to the Jake Paul and Alyssa Violet thing, where Jake was also her manager, and I just don't think I'll ever let anyone manage me if their last name is Paul. So Mikaela and Atis are dating, and these two are messy, okay? These guys are messy as hell. For example, during 2020, they received some backlash because they were traveling overseas in Bali, and Atis reveals that he has COVID. And this is like 2020. COVID is very big. It's not like now where you're kind of allowed to still like you're obviously not meant to, but there's no government mandates stopping you from traveling while you have COVID. And so it was pretty irresponsible, to say the least. Yeah, they were out like posting photos and just putting other people at risk to post a couple of beach photos. Atis and Mikaela also received backlash for promoting crypto, which I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to do that, but they just did the classic thing that'd be like, guys, Atis knows his crypto and we're going to be investing in this Bitcoin. I'm exposing how little I know about cryptocurrency because I'm like, I don't know the right terminology to use right now. But yeah, they were advising their followers to invest in Hashcoin because it was going to be this up and coming thing, and they're doing this out of the goodness of their hearts and they don't want their followers to miss out on this great opportunity. And then it was the classic like pump and dump. That's what I've seen it being called online, which that makes me think of something else. But it's basically when someone with a following will like promote a cryptocurrency and then all their followers will buy it, and then that drives the price up, and then they'll sell their currency while the price is like at its peak because the actual currency has no value. Okay, anyway, I'm not the right person to explain this. They did get into a bunch of heat for that. There were actually a bunch of news articles, and this cryptocurrency Hashcoin was promoted by Anna, Mikaela, and Atis, and like all three of them kind of, I don't think there was any like legal action taken, but a lot of people were kind of upset about it because it's like, I don't know, it's just bad practice, right? And I think this could have even been before the laws changed around having to like declare when you're affiliated with a product that you're selling. Yeah. During their relationship, Atis was also accused by his former girlfriend of statutory rape, and this is because they dated when he was 16 and she was 13 at the time. Pretty sure the legal age of consent in Australia is the same as in New Zealand, which is 16, which means that legally Atis would have been of an age to be able to consent to stuff, and at 13 his ex-girlfriend, whose name is Alice, wouldn't have been. And so I'm just going to preface this by saying that I don't have all the information to talk about this properly, so I'm just kind of going to like mention it and then move on. Also because a lot of what happened at the time has since been deleted. Like a lot of Alice's videos have been deleted, a lot of Atis, Anna and Mikaela's videos have been deleted, so it's really hard to find what actually happened. And I wasn't following, this happened before I was following the family, so I didn't see any like real-time information coming out. As far as I know, there was never any actual legal action taken, which doesn't necessarily mean that it didn't happen, but that also does mean that there's also not a lot of like strong info about it. Do you know what I mean? So I think his former girlfriend kind of just came out and said, and she came out about it when she was 16, so 3 years after they were dating, and she was just saying like, looking back at it now, she feels uncomfortable with the fact that she was 13 and he was 16 when they were dating. The Paul family immediately jumped to Atis's defense. Like I think Anna released like a 1-hour YouTube video kind of dragging Alice. I've only seen clips, so again, like I can't comment on the whole video as a whole, and you know, saying that she's lying about the grades that they were in because, you know, Atis was born in January, so he's like only just born in 2001 or whatever I said, and she was born in 2004, I think, so like the age wasn't as problematic as it sounds, and yeah, all this stuff, which obviously there's a big difference between like a 48-year-old and a 13-year-old compared to a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old, but I will say in both instances the 13-year-old cannot consent, regardless of whether Atis had like just turned 16 or what. It's still a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and if I think back to when I was 13, like, yeah, there's no way. I mean, to be honest, I don't even know if I would have been able to properly consent at the age of 16, you know, but definitely not at the age of 13. So that was definitely a tricky time, and it was a bit, I don't know, it gives me a yucky feeling, just the way that Mikaela, Anna and Atis all took to the internet and kind of bullied this girl into being silent. I think they even allegedly they wrote her fake cease and desist letters, or their teams did, their management teams. So yeah, there was just a lot of power imbalance, a lot of he said, she said. But I think I can comfortably say, like, regardless of legal or whatever, like 13 is super young, and being 13 you probably are too young to be dating a 16-year-old. So yeah, the two were controversial, okay? Like even now Mikaela is still constantly receiving backlash for many different reasons. For example, she ate like dog meat, I think it was, at a market. There was another instance where she was wearing really revealing clothing in conservative countries or in like temples or holy places, which that's just plain disrespectful. Like, I get that everyone should wear what they feel comfortable wearing, but if you're in another country, like, you kind of just have to obey by those rules. There was like another instance where she was crying about homeless people on Skid Row, and then in the very same vlog she was also like just very lavishly spending money, which there's nothing like illegal about doing that, but at the same time it was just the tone. I feel like even if she just made 2 separate videos it would have been a bit better. So yeah, they're a controversial couple to say the least. They're also like a little bit insufferable and I don't mean to sound like a hater, but at one point I think their TikTok handles were like, her one was simp for Atis Paul and then his one was simp for Mikaela Testa, and they just made a lot of like super cringy couples content with like way too many sexual innuendos. I think there's literally one vlog where it opens with him saying, for breakfast Mikaela ate a big German sausage, and it's just like anyway, that might, I don't know, is that just me? Who knows? So yeah, that's kind of their whole vibe. However, in 2022, people do start getting suspicious that they've broken up. And even though they keep denying it, they're just not spending a lot of time together. Like, Mikaela's on a lot of girls' trips with her friends. Atis is hanging out with Anna and at the time her partner Glenn, but like they're not all together. And you just, I don't know, it's Anna and Glenn actually broke up last year, and I feel like I could tell that they were going to, for the similar reasons. Like, they started just spending less time together, and it's definitely notable when it's a couple who used to spend all their time together. So people start to kind of ask them like, are you guys breaking up? Are you guys still together? And they keep denying things until June 2022, when they do come out publicly to say that they've decided to stop seeing each other. They're both saying it was very amicable. They're both saying they'll always love each other. Anna jumps straight online, says like her and Mikaela will always be sisters. Like, it's your classic famous people breakup. We wish nothing but the best for each other, like that kind of thing. And to be fair, like, Atis has never actually said much about it. And I feel like this is kind of the Paul family's go-to strategy when it comes to anything big about them being in the media. Like, you know, the Veruca Salt drama that I briefly touched on in the intro. Throughout that whole time, Anna, Atis, Glenn, like no one was posting anything about it. They just kept posting as per normal. And that's kind of like what Atis has always done. Like, he's never really talked about the breakup. He's never made videos about Mikaela discussing anything. Like, he's, to be fair, been very good at keeping it offline. However, Mikaela has since had various breakdowns on TikTok and Instagram Live, and like I mentioned, she's an unreliable narrator at times, and there is a lot of her like constantly switching the story on why the breakup happened. Like, in one live she'll say that she was trying to break up with Atis for months because the relationship wasn't good and it wasn't serving her, and that he never let her leave. And then in another TikTok she says that she was completely blindsided by the breakup. So it's definitely weird vibes. And Mikaela does admit that she is a bit obsessed with Atis, like not directly, but her actions are admitting this on her behalf. For example, she explains in an Instagram story that she was trying to like go to the same bar that she knew that his dad would often frequent, just to kind of like feel that connection to Atis again. She'd often travel to the same countries as Atis and Anna, which again could have just been coincidence, or you know, maybe they both wanted to go to those countries and just happened to be there at the same time. But it is just a little bit sus. At one point Atis stopped like sharing his live location with her, which is fair, but she got pretty upset about that and then offered $30,000 to anyone who would be able to find his location. She just quite often has more things to say about him in the media than he does. And to be fair, like I mentioned earlier, Mikaela doesn't have a strong family network around her. And I'm not just talking about bloodline family, I'm talking about chosen family as well. And so I can empathize with her in the sense that when her and Atis broke up, you know, she would have lost connections to that whole family who she would have been feeling that kind of family connection from for 3+ years that they were dating. So yeah, I'm not trying to make excuses for her, but I can see why this would have been harder for her to process and deal with than it would have been for him. So they break up in June 2022. January 2023, so half a year after they've broken up, this is where the feud really comes to a head, because Mikaela hops on TikTok and accuses Atis of stealing money directly from her crypto wallet. She describes that she woke up, checked her crypto wallet, and saw that a large chunk of money had been stolen, and that he is someone who does have access to her passwords and to her account, so he would have easily been able to go into it and steal the money. I will say, she never names Atis specifically. She always says this person, but it's super clear she's talking about Atis. She says that Atis thinks she doesn't really know, or that Atis knows she doesn't really know how to use her crypto, and so it would make a lot of sense for him to have taken it, because he would have just assumed she'd never even be able to log in and find out that he did that. She explains that back in November he scammed thousands of dollars out of an account in her name, and then tried to tell her that the reason he took that money was because he thought it was his. He deactivated that account and changed the email and phone details so that she couldn't get back into it. And she kind of just decides to air out a little bit more about their relationship dynamic. So she reveals that when she met Atis, she was in a super vulnerable state of mind. Her dad had just died. She was going through a lot of fallouts with different friends. And so in a way, she feels like he did kind of take advantage of her in that sense, because he starts to become her manager and starts taking some of her money, which is fair, like you are meant to pay your manager, but she claims that he wasn't really managing anything. So it was kind of just, she would make all the money and then he by default would get a percentage of that, and that slowly over time he kept increasing the percentage that his manager cut would be, to the point where he was taking 50% of her income. If this is true, that's crazy. Because yeah, like what was Atis managing? How was he boosting her marketability? I don't know. Anyway, she goes on to explain that they would often have really big fights when she would bring up the amount that he was taking, and she would compare it to other people she knew in the same industry whose managers weren't taking up to 50%, and she said it would always result in a fight. Like it was always a contentious point. He never wanted to talk about it. And then she goes on to say that Atis actually just isn't a good person, and just because people idolize his sister, they need to realize that he is not just automatically a good person. And she also says the reason he's never said anything about their breakup is because he knows that he's in the wrong. She goes on to say that all the asshole videos that he would film on TikTok were actually just his real personality. Which I hope not. Like, those videos were terrible. The only way you can watch them is by convincing yourself that this person is just baiting for comments or like intentionally being like this. But she says that's just genuinely that kind of person that he actually is, and that he stopped filming that asshole content because her and others around him were getting into heat from it. So yeah, she really like airs it all out. And then she says the reason she's doing this is because he always thinks that he can like fuck her over and she's never going to say anything, but today it's like she's choosing violence. She's deciding to break her silence. I remember when this video dropped, my first thought was like, oh yeah, Atis used to do crypto. Like, what even happened to all that? And then my next immediate thought was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like, this is going to be the thing that takes this family down. Immediately, fans start bombarding Anna, Glenn, and Atis's accounts, like caps lock, give Mikaela her money back. This is big. There are a lot of people making TikToks about it saying, like the classic, as soon as some controversy comes out and suddenly everyone's like, I knew there was something wrong with Atis, like something just didn't sit right with me. All the psychics suddenly come out of the woodworks claiming they knew all this all along, and it's a pretty big deal. And then, plot twist, 3 days after posting the original TikTok, Mikaela retracts her claims. I know, spicy. She says that she deleted her original video because Atis had asked her to, and she respected that. And then she goes on to say that she was in fact wrong, that it was scammers who took that large chunk of money out of her crypto wallet and not Atis, and that she just assumed it was him because he had all the right info to like log into it and take the money, but that it was actually just a random scam attack, and that the police are involved and they'll be looking into things and, leading an investigation on it, but that it wasn't Atis. She does say that the other things she said in her video were true, but that she would have never aired them out like that. She only did it because she thought that he took her money. So that is a bit unfortunate that she felt that way about it, like that she didn't feel confident in her decision to air it out, and that it was truly just a retaliation tactic. And then she also asks people not to hate on him, and she also says she won't talk about him again, which I don't know if that's true. I feel like I've definitely since then seen videos of her talking about him again, but maybe she meant talking about that situation in particular. So when that video came out, again, the TikTok psychics came out of the woodworks. I knew when she dropped that video that Atis would have never done that. The Paul family is so good, blah, 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 blah. A lot of people turn on Mikaela. A lot of people call her crazy, delusional, and this kind of internet theory starts to come out that she knew that Atis didn't take her money, but that she just wanted a way to connect with him again. Obviously, he reached out to her to ask her to take down the video, so people are saying she did all of this as a way to convince him to contact her again. At this point, they probably weren't in touch anymore, even an amicable breakup, you might not be talking after 6 months. And then there was a second internet theory that the Paul siblings paid her off or blackmailed her or something like that to force her into making that statement saying it was a scammer. The second video is kind of weird because she's reading off a screen, whereas the first video was her just talking on the fly. So immediately the second video seems more forced or calculated, but that also would make sense for an apology video or a video where you're retracting a statement you made, that you would want to write everything down to make sure you get the story straight. But I don't know, let me know what you guys think. Do you believe the first theory that she did this out of spite or to get a reaction or contact from Atis, or do you think that she was blackmailed or paid off, or do you actually just think that some scammers took her money and she just assumed it was Atis? Which isn't a crazy assumption to make if we think about the fact that he had all the logins and passwords. This was a point in their breakup where they were starting to move on from one another, and she says, this is obviously an account or a form of currency that she doesn't often look at or goes into, and when they were together he was comfortable taking 50% of her income. So, and in the past he's accidentally withdrawn money from an account, accidentally in quote marks, and then changed all the details of the account, which that seems messy to me. That seems legally messy, where I'm there's definitely more to that story there, otherwise the police would be involved. But so that was wild, and that's kind of all there is on the feud. But I wanted to do this one because like I've said, I've had this fascination with the Paul family for a while, just in the way that they managed to skirt proper cancellations. Obviously they've been in hot water before, but never to the point where they've had to go off the internet or anything like that. So I wanted to start a conversation, and I'd love to know what your guys' thoughts are. Are you an Anna fan? Are you not? I personally am. I like her videos. I like seeing what Emirates first class looks like. And she also eats a lot of food that I enjoy. I love raw meat, for example. She's always eating raw meat. So in that sense, I feel her content aligns very closely with my interests. But I will say I'm weird about Atis. Just something about him now I'm being the TikTok psychic, but something about him just gives me an off vibe, and I can't really put my finger on it. I can't really explain it. It could literally just be that it's just a person I don't resonate with, which is fair enough. Like, that's fine. Slide into my Instagram DMs and let me know what you think at Mood for Feud. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to follow the show so that you never miss another one now that I'm actually posting again. You could also help the show out by leaving a 5-star review. And if you like an episode, or if you listen to something and you're like, oh, XYZ would love this, I give you permission to share it with them. You have all my consent. But that's all for the episode today. Just a short one, like I mentioned up top. But I wanted to also give a bit of a personal update. So this is also kind of funny because most people listening are people that know me. So they're going to be like, we already know all of this, but you know, it's still on the off chance that someone who doesn't know me is listening, you can get in on my personal life as well. Basically in March, like early March, first week of March, my partner and I, we moved out of our flat and in with his parents. So we've actually been living with Tim's parents for the last 2 months now, and it has been so nice. Like I love them to bits, and they're just the loveliest people, and so it's been really good. But the reason we moved in was to save a bit of money, because in July, first week of July, Tim and I are going to be moving to Brisbane. So yeah, super exciting. I'm definitely nervous and scared, but if you're in Queensland or in Brisbane specifically, we can grab a drink together, because I don't know too many people there. But yeah, I'm definitely excited for the new adventure and for just a change of scenery as well. Like, I love living in Wellington, but I have been living here for just about nearly 8 years. So, which is scary. I'm like, how am I old enough to be living here for 8 years? So, time for a new change. The podcast will be moving to Brisbane. I don't know how that changes anything for you, the listener, but just know that I'll be podcasting from somewhere warm instead of from somewhere cold and windy. Maybe less background noise, depending on where I am. But yeah, that's my little personal update. I'm very excited. If you have any tips for moving to a new place or moving to a new country, let me know, because it's going to be a bit of a new experience for us, and I'm trying to be brave about it, but I'm also like scared, you know? I appreciate you guys so much, and I'm glad to be back on the mic, because I've missed talking with you all and just honestly discussing pop culture every week. I've just been so out of it, because obviously with the move and then with planning to move overseas, things have just been so busy and hectic, and then work got really hectic as well, so everything just felt like it was piling up a bit, and then it just meant that I had no brain capacity for pop culture anymore, and I wasn't even really scrolling on Instagram or like keeping up with any celebrity news. And I also wasn't really listening to any other pop culture podcasts at the time. And normally that's like my favorite way to start the day, is by listening to podcasts. So I feel like I just was a bit, like I'd put all the things that I love doing to the side a bit. And I was just so focused on like admin and logistical things in my life. So it's exciting to be back. I feel like I'm fueling my soul, which is sad that like the way to fuel my soul is to talk shit about people on the internet. But I hope you guys are having a good week out there. And yeah, if you have any episode suggestions as well, make sure you slide in, let me know. I'm following this whole Kendrick Drake thing at the moment. That definitely is going to be an upcoming episode at some point. So let me know if there's anything else you want me to talk about. Otherwise, I'm going to let you go. But thank you so much for listening. Bye!